guys, it's Tori, and it's time for my May-June Bookopoly TBR / Magical Readathon TBR. So, for those of you who are wondering, yes, I know the Magical Readathon is in April, however, I am doing it in May because I have finals in college and I just would rather not add the pressure of a readathon on top of the pressure of taking finals. So I did this last year as well. I did it in May, and that way I can participate in the Newts in August with everybody else. So that's why I end up doing it that way. I actually this year have some friends who are willing to do it with me because they go to my same school and also have finals, so they are in the same boat and are willing to do it in May, and it should be fun. So, how I'm organizing this, because I have a lot of books to talk about and this might feel chaotic, I filmed the rolls first for Bookopoly and then cut them in just because that's the easiest way to do it. So I already know my situation with Bookopoly, and I have split those prompts in half, and half of them match prompts for the Magical Readathon that I will read in May, and then 5 of the prompts from Bookopoly I will be reading those books in June. So I'll let you know which one's which as I go through them. And then at the end, I do have prompts for the Magical Readathon that won't be counted in the Bookopoly, so I will go through those then. Again, it may feel a little chaotic, but just know these are the books I'm going to be reading in May and June. First of all, to start off, I should probably mention what career I'm doing. If you couldn't tell in the thumbnail, I chose to be a potioneer just because I think it sounds fun. And then I also will be getting my animagus training certificate is my plan, since this year G decided to do some fun certificate things in the bag just to add a few more prompts if you want to. However, I do have options for all 12 prompts in case I end up getting through the 6 prompts that I'm required to do, if that makes sense. So let's just start off by getting into the first roll. Alright, so fun. I actually have dice this time, unlike the past few times when I've been using a computer, so you can know I didn't cheat. First roll, we got 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We get a chance card. And I got book with a building on the cover. That's interesting. I don't even remember putting that in. Honestly, I don't really remember what I put in this pile, so cool. Okay, so kicking it off with a chance card that says read a book with a building on the cover. I have one book that I wanted to read in June for sure that I was hoping would match one of these prompts, and it matched the first one, Glorious. So this is one I'm reading in June, not for the Magical Readathon, but that is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. There's a little castle, if you can see that up there. This is my choice for my over 900 page classic that I'm going to read for the year, and I do that in the summer, usually every year. So I will be listening to the audiobook for this / slightly following along. And this is a revenge story set in France, and that's pretty much all I need to know. I am so excited to read this. I've heard amazing things from people I trust, and in fact, one of the best things I've heard about this is even though it's so long, you are hooked the whole way through. And that's impressive because with the other 2 I've read for this little goal of mine, Les Mis and War and Peace, I've heard both of those had slog parts, which they did, but this one I haven't heard anybody say that there are slog parts, so I'm really hoping I just am able to get through it fast and just fall in love with it. Alright, we'll roll again. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another romance-heavy book. I actually have the perfect book for that. Alright, next, for a romance-heavy book, I have a book that also meets my prompt for arithmancy, I believe. And the prompt for arithmancy is to read a book outside of your favorite genre, which romance is definitely that for me. So I ended up picking Lies and Letters by Ashtyn Newbold. I read the first book in this companion series last year and enjoyed it okay. And Ashtyn Newbold is actually a friend of mine, so I'm excited to get into one of her books that she's had published because I'm so proud of her. And my sister says this is actually her favorite in the companion series, so I'm excited to get to it. Next we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A high fantasy. I know exactly what to pick for that as well. Also, I know I say this in every video, I'm sorry if you can hear noises. Quarantine is going on, And so my wonderful siblings are home and they can be very loud sometimes. So again, if you hear any banging or weird screams or something, it's fine. It's just my siblings being chaotic. So anyway, for a high fantasy, I ended up going with one that actually matches my prompt for Transfiguration, which goes with my Animagus training certification, and that is Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashardoust. One girl is actually originally made out of snow, and then she's transformed into a real girl, so that is my shape-shifting, which follows the prompt for Transfiguration. And this is a Snow White retelling, and I'm excited to pick it up. I've had it for a while. My mom read it and enjoyed it okay, so I'm excited to read it. Plus, I feel like it's going to be a pretty quick read, which will be good for a readathon. Another 5. Man, I'm getting all these small numbers. I'm gonna have so many, which I guess is fine for 2 months, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A pre-Victorian novel. I actually have one that will work for that as well. And the next prompt to read a pre-Victorian read actually goes well with another one of my Owl's prompts for herbology, which is to read a book that starts with an M. And so the book that I chose that matched both of these prompts is A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. Technically it's a play, but I'm gonna read it. Counts on Goodreads, so I'm counting it here. And this is one I've been so anticipating for so long. I just have heard great things about it, and I really think it's going to possibly become one of my favorite Shakespeare plays once I get to it. So I'm excited to probably listen to the audiobook while following along, just because, you know, Shakespeare is meant to be watched, and if you can't watch it, at least try to listen to it, is my philosophy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A gothic or sensational classic. Okay, so finally we get a prompt that doesn't match any of my plans for the Owls, so we're going to read this in June. For this gothic sensation novel, I have chosen The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Technically, this is not a novel. This is a collection of Edgar Allan Poe's short stories and a few poems, and it's very gothic because Edgar Allan Poe in general is just a gothic writer. So I haven't read very much Edgar Allan Poe, and I'm excited to get into this. I've had this book for a really long time. Also, it's so beautiful. Just look at the cover and then the sprayed edges. Just love it. Anyway, so that's my plan for that. Apparently, my brother decided to practice his Pirates of the Caribbean music again right when I'm filming this. I don't know why he just happens to pick the times when I'm filming, because he doesn't play that much. But anyway, sorry about that. 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh my goodness, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I got the oldest book on my TBR, which right now I know exactly what that is, and it's a very intimidating book for me that I wasn't really planning on even reading this year, so, but apparently I'm going to have to. So, the oldest book on my TBR definitely doesn't work for any of the Owl's prompts. I mean, maybe there's one it kind of does, but I'm not counting it for that because I'm already intimidated enough by it. I don't want to add it to my readathon TBR. But I'm going to be reading Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne in June. I have had this for about 11 years, maybe 12 years, and it's about time I just freaking read it. I started it when I was younger, did not understand it. I was like, I need to read this when I'm older and I can get it. I'm older now, time to finally read it. I've had this for so long. I think this might be an abridged version of it because I had Oliver Twist in the same edition and it was abridged. I'm not really sure, but I don't mind reading an abridged version of this book because I'm not overly interested in it. I just am interested enough that I'd like to at least get the story. And then if it ends up being really good, I might read an unabridged version sometime later in the future. But for now, this is the version I'm going to be reading, and hopefully I end up liking it, although I do give myself permission to DNF it if I'm struggling with it, like I did when I was younger. Again, since I'm older, I might like it a lot more, but I'm just not sure, so we're just gonna give myself that permission. Alright, and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, looks like I'm going to be reading a dystopian, which I can't even begin to think of what
to read for that, but we'll figure it out. It'll be fun.
Okay, dystopian. So I have a couple of classic dystopians that I have been interested in, but I don't know. In my planning, I ended up having a couple classics that I was planning on reading in June. Already you have seen Count of Monte Cristo and Journey to the Center of the Earth. So because of that, I was like, I want to throw in one that's not a classic. So the one I ended up choosing is a book that's coming out in May, and that is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I believe, by Suzanne Collins. I really, like many other people, am a big fan of Hunger Games, and I'm really excited for this. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings. Personally, I know a lot of people wanted a story about Haymitch or Mags, but personally I was always like, I don't know how interesting that book would be, because you know how it would end. I just feel like we already knew their backstory enough that like having a book about it would be nice and fun, but I don't think it would be all that like groundbreaking, if that makes sense, because we already had a really good idea of Haymitch and Mags's experience overall. But President Snow is an enigma, especially his backstory. Like, we know nothing about it, nothing about how he came to be where he is, beyond that he got there using a lot of cunning and poison. So I feel like there's a lot more to work with President Snow, so I understand why Suzanne Collins made this choice. I'm a little hesitant about it because I don't really trust YA to be able to accomplish a good, satisfying villain backstory. And the reason is because with YA, there tends to be a lot more focus on a romance and on discovering yourself, and that's kind of the thing with YA. And I feel like with villains, it needs, like a villain backstory, it needs to have room to be a little more brutal, a little more dark. It doesn't necessarily have to be super intense, like brutal and intense dark, but it kind of has to have more brutality for it to be satisfying to me. And a YA, I just feel like it's harder for a YA to do that and still be considered YA. So I'm a little hesitant about that aspect, but I really am willing to give it a try. And I trust Suzanne Collins to do a pretty good job, so we're just gonna go for it, and I'm excited. I actually just pre-ordered it after I got this prompt. I was like, well, guess we're gonna definitely pre-order it, because I wasn't sure when I was gonna get it, but since I got this prompt, I was like, well, guess I'm getting it now.
And possibly the last roll, unless I get doubles again. Which I did, of course, just because I said that, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6, 7, 8, a non-Western. Oh gosh, now I have to, both of these are so, I have no idea what to pick for that, but we'll figure it out. It'll be fine.
Okay, for a non-Western, I actually have a book that matches my prompt for Charms, which is to read a book with a white cover, and technically it's not quite in the spirit of what I was wanting when I put this prompt on my Bookopoly board. But that being said, this still works technically, and that is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. This is a historical fiction mystery kind of story set in New Zealand. So when I put non-Western, I mostly wanted like something that really wasn't similar to Western culture, something that was more Asian, African, or South American inspired in some way. But that being said, technically New Zealand is not something I'm familiar with, and technically it's an Eastern country. So I'm just going to count it for this. If in June I end up having time to read another non-Western that's a little bit more in the spirit of what I want, then I'll go for it. But if not, this is what I'll read. Also, it has the white cover for Charms. It is huge, and some of you may be wondering, why are you choosing this one for a readathon? The reason is because I have plans to read just a few chapters every night for the 30 days of May that I'm going to be doing it. I'm not doing it the 31st because April only has 30 days. So everybody else for the Owls only got 30 days, so it would be unfair for me to have a one-day advantage. So I'm not doing that, but in those 30 days I'm going to read this just a little bit each night until I complete it. So that's my plan. I've just had this for so long and I really, really want to read it. I'm feeling like I'm going to love it and I just want to pick it up, and I just feel like this is a good opportunity for me to do that.
And the official last roll, unless I get another doubles, which means I have to go again. Okay, it's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another romance-heavy book. Oh my goodness, I can't.
Alright, and then we have a romance-heavy book, and for this one I picked The Birth of Venus by Sarah Dunant. I don't know how romance-heavy this is, But based on the synopsis, there seems to be she falls in love with an artist, but then she's forced to marry this old man, and it's set in the Italian Renaissance. It seems really good. I've read the first couple chapters and really liked them already, so I feel like I'm really going to like it, and it will be different from everything else I'm already planning on reading in June, so hopefully I'll like it. And hopefully the last, if I get another double, I'm gonna be... okay, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A historical fantasy. And last of all, after another roll that I had to do, so I ended up having 10 prompts if you've been counting, but this book matched one of my Owls prompts as well, and so the book is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern as my historical fantasy, and also it matches the prompt for Care of Magical Creatures, which is to read a book with a creature with a beak on the cover, and there's little birds on here. So I'm going to be reading this. Technically, this is going to be my audiobook for the month of May. So that's why I'm okay with it being a little longer, because audiobooks, I'm usually able to get through longer books faster on audio because I get less distracted, which is kind of odd. But anyway, so this is going to be my audiobook, and I've heard great things about it. I've heard the writing's very flowery, which is kind of making me hesitant because sometimes I don't love that. But I'm not one to really be turned off by overly flowery writing. Sometimes there's certain writing styles that I really just can't handle, but that's very, very rare. Usually writing style, even if it's not my favorite, I can usually push through and just focus on the plot. So I'm hoping I'll be able to do that with this, but I am excited to get to it. Okay, so that is it for Bookopoly. Now to mention the rest of my Owls prompts, I'll try to go through these as fast as possible so that you can get on with your life, and I can too. First of all, the only other prompt that I have to fulfill for my career is potions, which is to read a book under 250 pages. For that one, I'm going with Frome by Edith Wharton. This is a novella that's about 75 pages? Yeah, 77 pages. Close. That is by an author that I have recently fallen in love with, and I'm excited to read more by her. This will be nice to read as a book I can read in like an afternoon probably, so very excited to pick that up. And now we get into the books that I don't necessarily have to read, but if I end up finishing the rest of the required prompts for my potioneer career, I will try out some of the other prompts, and I have some options for those. I'm just going to go down this little list of prompts in alphabetical order and talk about the ones I haven't talked about yet. So the first prompt we have here is Ancient Runes, which is inspired by the Heart rune. So we're supposed to read a book with heart in the title or a picture of a heart on the cover, and for that one I'm going with Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I've had this book for far too long. It is an origin story for the Queen of Hearts and Alice in Wonderland. I've never read a Marissa Meyer book, and I feel like starting with one of her standalones is a good idea. And again, I've had it for a while, so I would love to get to this if at all possible. Next, we have Astronomy, and the prompt for this is to read a book mostly at night. And since I can literally do anything for this one, and I already know I'm probably not going to get through all 12 prompts, I'm just not gonna do anything for this one unless by some miracle I get to that point. So for now, I'm just leaving this one blank. Next, we have Defense Against the Dark Arts, and the challenge for this is to read a book on this that's set on the sea or on the coast, and for this I'm going with The Voyage of the Dawn Treader by C.S. Lewis. This is I think it's the fifth chronologically, and I think it's the third actually that was written. I'm not completely sure on that. But I recently, about a year ago, reread The Magician's Nephew, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Prince Caspian, and was really enjoying it, but I just took a break from rereading the series, and I was like, I should probably get back into it, especially because I recently watched the movies. Hopefully I can get to that one. Next, we have the prompt for Divination, which is basically to just choose a bunch of books, assign them each a number, and then put it in a random number generator and see which one comes up. So I chose 5 books for this. So here they are. The first one is Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. Then we have A Lady of Quality by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Indiana by George Sand, A Study in Scarlet and the Sign of the Four by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. So it's just gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have my random number generator that the camera's not focusing on very well, but it's fine, it's there. And we're going to, we have it set to 1 to 5, generate. Got 4. I had a feeling it would be 4. But anyway, that will be A Study in Scarlet and The Sign of the Four by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I will count it if I at least read A Study in Scarlet, since technically this is 2 books in one. But that's really exciting because I've been wanting to get into Sherlock Holmes for so long, so hopefully I'll end up enjoying it. Next, we have the prompt for History of Magic, Witch Hunts. Choose a book that features witches or wizards. And for this one, I'm going with The Tales of Beedle the Bard by J.K. Rowling. This is a short story collection inspired by Harry Potter, and I really want to listen to the new audiobook that recently came out for this book, as each story is read by a different actor from the movies, which is wonderful. So I am going to listen to the audiobook for this if I get to it in time. Even if not, I'm going to listen to it in June. I don't even care. I just really want to get to it as soon as possible, so I have it on this list. And the last one I haven't mentioned yet is Muggle Studies. Read a book from the perspective of a Muggle, meaning a contemporary. I was a little sad with this because I wish she had been like from the perspective of a Muggle, so it can be anything, either contemporary or historical fiction. Technically, I guess I could read a classic because at the time many of them were written, they were contemporary, so I could sneak around that way. But I chose a contemporary, even though contemporary is one of my least favorite genres. I don't know why. Some of them I really like, I just am very picky about them. I think that's what it is. So anyway, the one I chose was Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. This is a pretty big book. I'm not sure if this is like my least priority on this list. I really like Kristen Hanna and I can usually fly through her books. This one follows 2 girls and their friendship from when they're young through 3 decades of their lives as they grow up and become mothers, and how their friendship changes and grows. And I am really excited to read it whenever I do, even if it's not this month. So that is it. Thank you so much for putting up with my kind of long video. Let me know down below if you've been participating in Owls and what you've been reading, what you've loved. And let me know down below if you also want to do it in May. I'm not going to like host anything because it's not my readathon, but I'd be interested to know if anybody else is participating in May instead of April. That all being said, thank you again for watching. I'm not sure how many times I've said that, but really thank you, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!